Today we're continuing to read The Pilgrim's Progress. They are a couple of far countrymen that, after their mode, are going on pilgrimage. Alas, why did they not stay, that we might have had their good company? For they and we and you, sir, I hope, are all going on pilgrimage. We are so, indeed, but the men before us are so rigid, and love so much their own notions, and do also so lightly esteem the opinions of others, that, let a man be ever so godly, yet, if he agrees not with them in all things, they thrust him quite out of their company. That is bad, but we read of some that are righteous overmuch, and such men's rigidness makes them to judge and condemn all but themselves. But I pray, what and how many were the things wherein you differed? Why, they, after their headstrong manner, conclude that it is their duty to rush on their journey all weathers, and I am for waiting for wind and tide. They are for taking the risk of all for God at a clap, and I am for taking all advantages to secure my life and property. They are for holding their notions, though all other men be against them. But I am for religion in what and so far as the times and my safety will bear it. They are for religion when in rags and contempt, but I am for him when he walks in his golden slippers, in the sunshine, and with applause. Ay, and hold you there still, good Mr. Byends, for my part, I can count him but a fool, that having the liberty to keep what he has, shall be so unwise as to lose it. Let us be wise as serpents. It is best to make hay while the sun shines. You see how the bee lieth still all winter, and bestirs her only when she can have profit and pleasure. God sends sometimes rain and sometimes sunshine. If they be such fools to go through the rain, yet let us be content to take fair weather along with us. For my part, I like that religion best that will stand with the safety of God's good blessings unto us. For who can imagine that is ruled by his reason, since God has bestowed upon us the good things of this life, but that he would have us keep them for his sake? Abraham and Solomon grew rich in religion, and Job says that a good man should lay up gold as dust, but he must not be such as the men before us, if they be as you have described them. I think that we are all agreed in this matter, and therefore there needs no more words about it. No, there needs no more words about this matter, indeed. For he that believes neither scripture nor reason, and you see, we have both on our side, neither knows his own liberty nor seeks his own safety. And so these four men, Mr. Byans, Mr. Moneylove, Mr. Sable, and old Mr. Hold the World, walked on together, while Christian and Hopeful were far in advance. Then Christian and Hopeful went on till they came to a delicate plain called Ease, where they went with much content. But that plain was but narrow, so they were quickly got over it. Now, at the farther side of that plain was a little hill called Lucre, and in that hill a silver mine, which some of them that had formerly gone that way, because of the rarity of it, had turned aside to see, but going too near the brink of the pit, the ground, being deceitful under them, broke, and they were slain. Some also had been maimed there, and could not, to their dying day, be their own men again. Then I saw in my dream that a little off the road, over against the silver mine, stood Demas, gentleman-like, to call to passengers to come and see, who said to Christian and his fellow, Ho, turn aside hither, and I will show you a thing. What thing so deserving as to turn us out of the way? Here is a silver mine, and some digging in it for treasure. If you will come, with a little pains, you may richly provide for yourselves. Then, said Hopeful, let us go see. Not I, said Christian. I have heard of this place before now, and how many have there been slain. And besides, that treasure is a snare to those that seek it, for it hindereth them in their pilgrimage. Then Christian called to Demas, saying, Is not the place dangerous? Hath it not hindered many in their pilgrimage? Not very dangerous, except to those that are careless. But withal he blushed as he spoke. As he spake. Then said Christian to Hopeful, Let us not stir a step, but still keep on our way. I will warrant you, when Byends comes up, if he hath the same invitation as we, he will turn in thither to see. No doubt thereof, for his principles lead him that way, and 100 to 1, but he dies there. Then Demas called out again, saying, But will you not come over and see? Then Christian roundly answered, saying, Demas, thou art an enemy to the right ways of the Lord of this way, and hast been already condemned for thine own turning aside by one of his majesty's judges. And why seekest thou to have us condemned also? Besides, if we at all turn aside, our lord the king will certainly hear thereof, and will there put us to shame, where we should stand with boldness before him. Demas cried again that he also was one of their company, a pilgrim like themselves, and that, if they would tarry a little, he also himself would walk with them. Then said Christian, What is thy name? Is it not the same by the which I have called thee? Yes, my name is Demas. I am the son of Abraham. I know you. Gehazi was your great-grandfather, and Judas your father, and you have trod in their steps. It is but a devilish prank that thou usest. Thy father was hanged for a traitor, and thou deservest no better reward. Assure thyself that when we come to the king, we will tell him of this thy behavior. Thus they went their way. By this time Byends and his companions were come again within sight, and they at the first beck went over to Demas. Now whether they fell into the pit by looking over the brink thereof, or whether they went down to dig, or whether they were smothered in the bottom by the damps that commonly arise, of these things I am not certain, but this I observed, that they never were seen again in the way. Then sang Christian, Byends and Silver Demas both agree. One calls, the other runs, that he may be a sharer in his lucre, so these two take up in this world, and no farther go. Now I saw that just on the other side of the plain the pilgrims came to a place where stood an old monument hard by the highway side, at the sight of which they were both concerned, because of the strangeness of the form thereof, for it seemed to them as if it had been a woman changed into the shape of a pillar. Hence, here therefore they stood looking and looking upon it, but could not for a time tell what they should make thereof. At last Hopeful espied written above upon the head thereof a writing in an unusual hand, but he, being no scholar, called to Christian, for he was learned, to see if he could pick out the meaning. So he came, and after a little laying of letters together, he found the same to be this: Remember Lot's wife. So he read it to his fellow, after which they both concluded that that was the pillar of salt into which Lot's wife was turned, for her looking back with a covetous heart when she was going from Sodom, which sudden and amazing sight gave them occasion for speaking thus. Ah, my brother, this is a seasonable sight. It came just in time to us after the invitation which Demas gave us to come over to view the hill lucre, and had we gone over, as he desired us, And as thou wast inclining to do, my brother, we had, for aught I know, been made ourselves, like this woman, a spectacle for those that shall come after to behold. I am sorry that I was so foolish, and I am made to wonder that I am not now as Lot's wife. Correction. And am made to wonder that I am not now as Lot's wife. For wherein was the difference betwixt her sin and mine? She only looked back, and I had a desire to go see. Let God's goodness be praised, and let me be ashamed that ever such a thing should be in mine heart. Let us take notice of what we see here, for our help for time to come. This woman escaped one judgment, for she fell not by the destruction of Sodom, yet she was destroyed by another, as we see. She is turned into a pillar of salt. What a mercy is it that neither thou, but especially I, am not made myself this example. This gives reason to us to thank God, to fear before Him, and always to remember Lot's wife. I saw then that they went on their way to a pleasant river, which David the king called the river of God, but John the river of the water of life. Now their way lay just upon the bank of this river. Here therefore Christian and his companion walked with great delight. They drank also of the water of the river, which was pleasant and enlivening to their weary spirits. Besides, on the banks of this river on either side were green trees that bore all manner of fruit, and the leaves of the trees were good for medicine. With the fruit of these trees they were also much delighted. And the leaves they ate to prevent illness, especially such diseases that come to those that heat their blood by travels. On either side of the river was also a meadow, curiously beautified with lilies, and it was green all the year long. In this meadow they lay down and slept, for here they might lie down safely. When they awoke, they gathered again of the fruit of the trees, and drank again of the water of the river, and they lay down again to sleep. This they did several days and nights. Then they sang, Behold ye how these crystal streams do glide, to comfort pilgrims by the highway's side. The meadows green besides their fragrant smell yield dainties for them, and he who can tell what pleasant fruit, yea, leaves these trees do yield, will soon sell all that he may buy this field. So, when they were disposed to go on, for they were not as yet at their journey's end, they ate and drank and departed. Now I beheld in my dream that they had not journeyed far, but the river and the way for a time parted, at which they were not a little sorry. Yet they durst not go out of the way. Now the way from the river was rough, and their feet tender by reason of their travels. So the souls of the pilgrims were much discouraged because of the way. Wherefore, still, as they went on, they wished for a better way. Now, a little before them, there was, on the left hand of the road, a meadow and a stile to go over into it. And that meadow is called Bypath Meadow. Then said Christian to his fellow, If this meadow lieth along by our wayside, let's go over it. Then he went to the stile to see, and behold, the path lay along by the way on the other side of the fence. It is according to my wish, said Christian. Here is the easiest going. Come, good hopeful, and let us go over. But how if this path should lead us out of the way? That is not likely, said the other. Look, doth it not go along by the wayside? So Hopeful, being persuaded by his fellow, went after him over the stile. When they were gone over, and were got into the path, they found it very easy to their feet. And withal, they, looking before them, espied a man walking as they did, and his name was Vain Confidence. So they called after him and asked him whither that way led. He said, To the celestial gate. Look, said Christian, did I not tell you so? By this you may see we are right. So they followed, and he went before them. But behold, the night came on, and it grew very dark, so that they that were behind lost sight of him that went on before. He therefore that went before, Vain Confidence by name, not seeing the way before him, fell into a deep pit, which was on purpose there, made by the prince of those grounds, to catch careless fools, withal, and was dashed in pieces with his fall. Now Krishna and his fellow heard him fall, so they called to know the matter, but there was none to answer, only they heard a groaning. Then said Hopeful, Where are we now? Then was his fellow silent, as mistrusting that he had led him out of the way. And now it began to rain and thunder and lighten in a most dreadful manner, and the water rose amain. Then Hopeful groaned in himself, saying, Oh, that I had kept on my way. Who could have thought that this path should have led us out of the way? I was afraid on I was afraid on it at the very first, and therefore gave you that gentle caution. I would have spoken plainer, but that you are older than I. Good brother, be not offended. I am very sorry I have brought thee out of the way, and that I have put thee into such great danger. Pray, my brother, forgive me. I did not do it of any evil intent. Be comforted, my brother, for I forgive thee, and believe too that this shall be for our good. I am glad I have with me a merciful brother, but we must not stand still. Let us try to go back again. But, good brother, let me go before. No, if you please, let me go first, that if there be any danger, I may be first therein, because by my means we are both gone out of the way. No, you shall not go first, for your mind being troubled may lead you out of the way again. Then for their encouragement they heard the voice of one saying, Let thine heart be towards the highway, even the way that thou wentest. Turn again. But by this time the waters were greatly risen, by reason of which the way of going back was very dangerous. Then I thought that it is easier going out of the way when we are in than going in when we are out. Yet they undertook to go back, but it was so dark and the flood so high that in their going back they had like to have been drowned 9 or 10 times. Neither could they, with all the skill they had, get again to the stile that night. Wherefore, at last lightning under a little shelter. Correction. Wherefore, at last, lighting under a little shelter, they sat down there until daybreak. But being weary, they fell asleep. Now, there was, not far from the place where they lay, a castle called Doubting Castle, the owner whereof was Giant Despair. And it was in his grounds they now were sleeping. Wherefore he, getting up in the morning early, and walking up and down in his fields, caught Christian and Hopeful asleep in his grounds. Then, with a grim and surly voice, he bid them awake, and asked them whence they were, and what they did in his grounds. They told him they were pilgrims, and that they had lost their way. Then said the giant, You have this night trespassed on me by trampling in and lying on my grounds, and therefore you must go along with me. So they were forced to go, because he was stronger than they. They had also but little to say, for they knew themselves in fault. The giant therefore drove them before him, and put them into his castle, into a very dark dungeon, nasty and smelling vilely to the spirits of these two men. Here then they lay from Wednesday morning till Saturday night, without one bit of bread or drop of drink, or light, or any to ask how they did. They were therefore here in evil case, and were far from friends and people whom they knew. Now in this place Christian had double sorrow, because it was through his thoughtless haste that they were brought into this distress. And that's the end of the reading for today. Have a good day.